Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone, depending on where you're connecting to us from. Glad to have you joining us today for the Cloudly Conversations. Today is all about digital and human agents and the customer experience. My name is Eric Dreshfield, and I am the founder of Midwest Dreamin' and a Salesforce MVP Hall of Fame, and I'm your host for today's conversation. With us today, we have Reddy Malidi. Hopefully, Reddy, I pronounced the last name correct for you. So, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Reddy?
Hey, Eric. It's great to be here. I'm Reddy Melody. I am AI strategist, COO, and also author of AI Unleashed. And I spent over 25 years in corporate world, from product management to general manager operations. And for over 10 years, I have had experience with AI projects, including multiple ones. The last big one I did was for a pharma company that we actually automated the quality inspection 50%. And there are many other projects that saved $150 million annually for companies.
Nice, very good. All right, and also joining us today, we have Jim Goldfinger. Jim, why don't
Yeah,
you go ahead and
absolutely, Eric.
introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me, Eric, and great to be on a panel with my good friend Reddy. Jim Goldfinger, Chief Customer Officer of a global systems integrator called Customer Times. I've been in the CX space for the last 40 years. I sort of can't find a way to punch out of it. Very excited and a little scared for what AI brings to the table, but it's certainly the biggest leap I've seen by far in the 40 years I've been in the space. I've worked across roles that span all of product management, product marketing, pre-sales, sales, and delivery. So really seen a little bit of everything across, pretty much any industry that's touched CX in any way, which is most of them.
All right. Um, Dealing with a little technical hiccups here. Bear with me one second. So we have a couple of questions that we kind of want to talk through um, today. So let's just dive right in. So artificial intelligence, it's been around for quite a while. I can't honestly remember when I first started hearing about it, but it's been a long time ago. Why does it seem like, in your opinion, Reddy? Why do you feel like it seems like there's a sudden rise in its use, a big leap, if you will? Um,
Yeah, so I went to graduate school 30 plus years ago in computer science. And at that time, um, I took a class in neural networks, but it's very, very different than what it is today. At that time, my friend Ben Carter and I, we wrote a game to test the behavior of smokers using neural networks. Uh, but then what happened was in the last 20 years or so, especially in the last 15 years, there was a convergence of the computing power due to Moore's law and the algorithmic maturity, the algorithms that underpin the AI, for example, the transformer models, they matured over the last 10 plus years. And the data explosion that happened since the internet boom and IoT, all of these three vectors converge to make AI a reality. And what it is today versus 20 years ago when people were talking about AI winters is that it is real now. People from ChatGPT or other AI models, people can actually experiment and see the results of the AI. And in my opinion, this is the most transformative technology or capability in our lifetimes, and I believe it is probably true since the Industrial Revolution, something of this magnitude we have never seen before. It is here, it is very tangible, and we're seeing the results of this AI maturity in the last 3-4 years. Jim, you have a lot of experience. Obviously, we have been talking about many practical applications. You want to give your
Yeah,
perspective?
absolutely. And I would say, so I don't have the background you have ready with the traditional AI, right? And my focus has been all about CRM, CX. So the way I see it, the old AI models, all those things you talked about, computing power and everything else, but also the readiness of data. And it was very data oriented. So the closest thing we had to AI for the first, 30 plus years that I've been involved in CX is more like predictive analytics, right? Which is all, again, number crunching, but you've got to have data you can rely on in order to make the right prediction. So it wasn't really neural, AI, if you will. It wasn't generative AI like we're seeing now. And it was now, we talk, a lot of companies are thinking, well, we're not ready for AI because our data's not ready. But there's so many uses of AI right now that, I used to say that you have to look at your state of readiness to know whether you're ready for the next level. I think everyone has some state of readiness for AI. You may not have the data readiness, but you have some readiness. And so I think the tools that are available with this generative AI and the speed and the horsepower to make it real time, which in CX conversations need to be near real time, really change the game dramatically.
Interesting. Very, very interesting thoughts there. One of the things that people, I don't know, maybe people don't talk about it much, but the media, the news, maybe more the movie industry perhaps tends to fictionalize this a little and stress the thought that AI is going to replace humans, that it's going to take jobs away from people. Any truth to that? What do you two feel about that? Is the use of AI going to really eliminate jobs, or is it maybe just going to shift them in a different way? What do you think there?
Ready? I'll let you go first.
Yeah, Eric, interestingly, I just wrote a post this morning on LinkedIn on Wall Street Journal. They were talking about over the last 3 years, the many big companies, they have reduced their workforce by 3.5%, while the economy continues to grow. And while it's not directly attributable to AI itself, but people are using AI, and then companies are figuring out, hey, we can do with fewer people, fewer managers, fewer executives, fewer frontline folks. It is happening. And so, given the leaps this AI is enabling, if, for example, the customer service area, Klarna replaced uh, close to 100% of their representatives, but that's an extreme example. But the when you look at how fast you can use AI to write the code that can do 50% more work than an engineer, this will eventually will lead to the same person doing a lot more work. And as a result, unless your company is growing at 20-30%, your need for the people is going to be reduced. But does it mean that it's only displacement and job loss? Absolutely not, because we are talking about AI agents for the last 6 to 8 months, and then guess what? How do you make sure that the AI agents, they behave, there are guardrails, there are ethics, and then bias of the models? Who's going to look into the data bias? Who's going to look into the ethics? Who's going to make sure that the governance is put in place? They all require new skills. And also, even the people, for example, someone is doing customer service, but if you are using AI, you become more productive. So your employability is going to be significantly increased. Yeah, absolutely. There is going to be displacement, but at the same time, with the proper upskilling, people can find avenues to uh, improve their employability and new opportunities. Jim?
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's going to replace jobs, right? We're going to be able to do more with less. I think the idea is, to Reddy's point, first of all, we all have to understand how it affects us, right? I'd be nervous if I was coming out of school and college right now, having gone 4 years to a school that didn't incorporate AI in some way, because I'm already behind the times a little bit, right? So what I've been talking to some companies about is look look for bottlenecks of processes in the organization that no one is doing. It's everyone's job. So to get contracts through the process, or there's things that take longer than they should, that AI can sort of fast path, right? Where same people and just being more efficient, if you will. I talk about there's a difference between efficiency, proficiency, and consistency, right? So make advanced people, make the experienced people more efficient, absolutely. Make the least experienced people more proficient, and then create consistency across the enterprise. But we're a ways from, I think, from most industries, for trying to put too much faith in AI, because there's still going to be hallucination. And even if it's not hallucination, I've talked about two different types of hallucination. One is a made up answer that looks really good, but it's wrong. But another is it's perfectly factual from the wrong place, right? And so you will absolutely need humans in the loop. Jobs will be lost, new jobs will be created, but those that aren't taking the time to understand how this could fit into wherever they're going are going to lose out, and those folks are going to have a harder time finding a job. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us, and I think for companies, start with removing the bottlenecks before you remove people, and then the next is doing more with less. You'll probably hire fewer people. You don't need to hire a lot of junior people that in the past have been doing research and grunt work. That's going to go away. So if you're going to bring in new people, make them more proficient and be prepared to move them up the chain of capabilities sooner.
Awesome. Very cool.
Jim, actually, I really liked how you said it: efficiency, proficiency, and the third one, third one is
Consistency.
consistency. Yeah,
Right?
it just yeah, I really like that because from my own experience, Eric, when in 2019, this was prior to the LLMs, all the technology we have now, but we did
Mhm.
build our own machine learning models. I had a small team of 5 people of AI, and we had a huge business problem to screen 50 million accounts for export compliance, which is very complex, very multi-language, multinational, location search, and it's very complex one that traditional software couldn't solve it. And so we built our own machine learning models. And the thing that going back to what Jim was saying was, it's not just the efficiency part. So once we deployed this, we were able to. Our sales guys would say, "Hey, you're taking too long to tell. We can go ahead with this deal in some country where it's on the list of the Department of Commerce to restricted usage of the software." And so once we deployed our AI driven compliance system, it was giving the response back in one day instead of 2 to 3 weeks. So that saved the it became a huge customer experience positive. It's not just the efficiency, how fast we were able to do and how fewer people we were able to do, but also the customer experience and the customer satisfaction, because we were able to get the answer in a day versus 2 to 3 weeks. And then that, of course, saved us $35 million a year.
That's amazing, really. That level of savings and time saved and response times. Jim, from your perspective, having been in the customer experience world for what feels like forever, probably. What do you think about that? Will obviously customer experience is changing. What do you feel like's coming next, or how do you think it's going to impact the customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you're going to see a lot more customer self-service. It'll start by improving the response of the agents by having more at their fingertips to be able to get answers faster, then ultimately pushing a portion of that to the customers themselves for customer self-service. Not everyone's ready for that. You know, a lot of people like that human touch, even, but with the voice bots, it's becoming more and more human and a little scary there as well. But there's no doubt it's going to improve customer service because if you think of all the documentation on products and knowledge base and so forth, be able to ask, you know, English level, English, basic questions and be able to get the right answers at any time very quickly. So I think you might start seeing fewer tier one, resources and answering the phones and just let the customer take tier one themselves and then make sure that you're getting high quality out of like at the tier two, tier three, tier four level. But there's no doubt if you choose to replace, like Reddy gave the example of all agents with AI, that's probably going to take away some of the customer experience. If you augment it and give options, then I think it would absolutely enhance the customer experience.
Makes sense. Ready? Any additional comments in that?
Jim is absolutely right. When I was running operations at Autodesk, I had the client services was part of my organization. And if you look at the types of issues that are coming, there may be queries like, oh, well, I need to check my account, right? Or I want to make sure I ordered this AutoCAD product and then now I have the license to use it. A lot of those tasks, those can be done by AI agents today versus needing a person. But on the other hand, there is a customer that is very unhappy. That happens with a lot of the cable companies, right? We all deal with them, or internet providers, and you want to talk to someone, and AI agents are not going to give you that the trust or the empathy. How do you deal with frustrated customers? You need that human touch. So absolutely, Jim is absolutely right. There is a place for AI, the level one, and not the severity one, but the very basic things can be all done at scale by AI and AI agents. And then, of course, humans are absolutely needed, especially anything that impacts um, humans and anything that involves empathy, anything that involves taking care of a frustrated customer or building a relationship. Humans are very, very important.
Okay. Let me. I worked in a call center 15-ish years ago, and so I was one of those agents talking to people. And so let me play devil's advocate here for just a second. In my mind here is now sitting thinking, the role that I did back then, I was the person talking to the customer on the phone. I was digging into knowledge base articles, finding the answers for them. I was doing all the things to solve their problems. Is is the AI agent effectively doing that same thing? They're acting kind of like I was. They're digging into news articles or to knowledge bases and finding responses to appropriate questions and then sharing that with the end customer. I mean, that's effectively really what they're doing, right?
Again, that's where Eric, you delineate the work that you're doing, right, versus providing the empathy. Uh, if someone is frustrated because he had to go through multiple loops with your cable company or internet provider and a technical glitch, you can't figure it out. You absolutely need Eric in the loop. But let's say if it is a knowledge article, if your AI agent or AI system is properly trained and the accuracy level is quite high, the sophistication level, and it is able to pull the knowledge articles. Just the knowledge is spread so in all the 2 3 different companies I worked before, the knowledge is spread so many locations. So
Hmm.
unless you have an AI agent or AI system that's effective and the accuracy levels are high, you're not going to give that satisfaction to the customer. So it is very, very important that you deploy the AI systems only after you properly train them and you vetted, the testing is done. So then they can give you probably, I would say, 50% of the responses, or as a customer service representative, you were able to do before, can be done by AI. I have seen that. And Jim, you probably have seen more than I did.
You know what? I'm just thinking out loud to your point, Eric, right? So AI can do all, right? Like AI can actually answer the questions, look at the knowledge base and all that. And if you look at how they're being trained, right? And I'm smiling now because they're training, you train it with a prompt that says you are a customer service agent and you have 8 years of experience and you will be answering calls from customers who are having issues with these products. And here's all the knowledge base. You could do that. What you don't see too often is, and you can't program necessarily, is that's who you are, but you're not every customer is different. So a customer who's calling with 10 years of experience asking the same question as someone who's calling with 1 week of experience needs the answer in a different way. And I remember doing training, in the old days, and I would say, at that point just hit the return key. But the return key doesn't say the word return. There's nothing on the keyboard that says return key, right? For those of us who grew up with computers, everyone knows what that means. For those that didn't, they're like, well, what are you talking about? There's no key here that says return key, right? So now, we'll start to get a little smarter, and maybe through inference, you could tell by the way someone's asking the question, but you really can't, right? So that's where a human is useful, because the answer may be the perfect answer to exactly that question, but the level of sophistication of the caller, it varies greatly. That might require a different way to explain it.
Hmm. So we've drifted into what I had already planned as our next question. Are there situations where human agents are better than digital and vice versa? And are there specific examples or industries where you think one might be better than the other? Ready? You want to take a stab at that?
Again, going back, Eric, I would say wherever um, empathy is needed and bringing together cross functionally, it's AI agents can pull the information from multiple data sources and then put it together. But let's say someone is replacing, someone has like 20 licenses, they are replacing those 20 licenses with the 10, but they also need to get credit and with a different product. So when it gets very complex, the multiple tasks are involved, a human agent is way better and would be able to do that more efficiently versus an AI agent. And it's the task complexity is one thing, but also the empathy. Going back, I was early this year, I was having some issues with the internet. I was I kid you not, with Xfinity, I was on the call for literally 4 hours. It's very frustrating, right? And because what happens is you go through these chains of loops and then automated responses, that gets you more and more frustrated. And finally, I get an agent, technical expert. He told me what was going on, and that satisfied my quest to get the answer quickly. But also, he solved it, because it's not just plugging in the standard answers that you get from the knowledge base. So going back to your question, Eric, is when you are dealing with extremely complex and cross-functional. Humans are fantastic when you're dealing with empathy, when you need to establish the trust with the customer. Humans are absolutely great. That's why I would say, when Klarna says, "Oh, we replaced all of our customer service representatives," then I was scratching my head. Oh, what is your CSAT score now?
Mhm.
And obviously, that 20% of that work cannot be replaced by AI.
Interesting. We do have a question that just came through on the live chat. So do you train the system to automatically escalate the call to a human at a certain point? My
Yes.
gut says yes, you should, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, you can. You could do this in a couple ways because the voice bots, for example, are getting so much better and smarter that if you're doing like if it's a voice bot, not a text, it can start to pick up the tone of your voice, and so you can actually train the voice bot to if you detect, frustration, anger, whatever it might be, you could intercept and interrupt and say, perhaps I could recommend transferring you to a live agent at this point, right? So you could either ask, depending on how you're organized, you could stop the call, save it as a ticket, route it to an agent to call back, or do a live swap, the multimodal, and you're starting to see that. But that's what I was saying. The they exit out, which has been in a lot of these, right? Like exit to a live operator, no doubt.
Mhm.
And back to your other question, Eric, and which is better or at what point, I still think, human in loop is really going to be critical for a while in most cases. And I'm liking it to the statistics they've done with like doctors, for example, where, radiologists, that AI is actually more accurate at reading films than doctors. So like, I don't know the numbers offhand, something like doctors are 78% accurate, the AI is 86% accurate, together they're 93, right? So you're always going to do better together. But I guess I would get back to you, Eric, in that job when you were a call center agent, you talked about knowledge bases. Did you ever feel you could walk into work and not access any knowledge base, that you were prepared to answer any question at any time from any customer?
Not a
Right? And
chance. No, not a
so that's
chance.
where speed helps, right? So the fact
Right.
that AI can process, hundreds of files, index, have available, ask English language questions, natural language questions, get the answer, feed it to you, then you could decide, or maybe I give you the top 3 likely responses, let you decide. But AI did all that work, and saved you all the trouble of where should I look, which file, what area,
Right.
what file, and then track it. So there's just so much blocking and tackling that AI can take off your plate, but be your assistant to make you more effective.
So back in the day when I was doing that, when it took me 20 minutes to resolve a call, if I had the AI technology we've got available today, that might have been 2 or 3 minutes to resolve the call because of the
Or
speed of the
seconds.
research capabilities. Yeah,
No doubt.
absolutely.
No doubt.
Totally agree with you there. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Don't see any additional questions, and I know we're coming close to the 30-minute mark, and one of you, I believe, had a hard stop. So we probably should wrap it up. Jim, Reddy, thank you very much for both coming on
Yep.
today and chatting about all this. And,
I'll offer Eric that same thing they say in the court system: to reserve the right to recall the witness. So we're all on LinkedIn, and happy to take one-on-one questions at any time, and very much
Fantastic.
appreciate the opportunity to participate.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
plug for the book because I've read it and I'm a big fan, so I recommend it.
All
AI
right.
Unleashed. Excellent.
yeah,
Fantastic.
thank you
Well,
for the
thank you both,
opportunity.
gentlemen.
Great conversation. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody,
guys.
for joining us today. Take care.
Take care. Bye
All
bye.
right.